All right, thank you. There you go. So my first not childhood nightmare occurred on July 5th, 1983. I remember it precisely. It was the night that my first love left for the Naval Academy and left me behind. I was 16. It was dramatic for me, and that night, dreams are a reflection of your subconscious. My subconscious at 16 was dramatic and not subtle, and I had a dream that someone masked man walked in a uniform into his house and shot his whole family. Right, and that was before Columbine, that was before Las Vegas, that was before that was, and at 16 years of age, I got out of my own bed and climbed into my parents' bed and cried. It was a very traumatic year. I don't know if you've had anyone that's gone to the Naval Academy, but I was from afar trying to be support for someone who was being indoctrinated into lots of subordination and coordination and lots of things that he had to do. And I developed no great love for the military during that year that we stayed together. We parted amicably at the end of a year, him going one way, me going another. And it was remarkable to me that 6 years later, I awoke and thought the only person that would be more surprised to find me where I am today than me would have been Michael, my first love. For I found myself at Lackland Air Force Base, Medina Annex, preparing for officer training school in the Air Force. Remarkable. You see, it appears I have a type, and the type that I like has some proclivity for the military. And my then boyfriend, soon-to-be fiance, now husband of 26 years, had gotten an Air Force scholarship to the military, and I knew how that went when you let them go into the military and you didn't go into the military, and so I hopped right on, and here I was in officer training school. Now, officer training school for the health profession scholarship was a little different because we pin on lieutenant bars as soon as we sign the paperwork. So there was none of the yelling in your face and calling you a maggot kind of thing that I'm sure Michael experienced in the Naval Academy. And the first day I actually found fairly fascinating. I was a fan of leadership training, and if you're going to be an officer, you're training to lead people of some sort, whether you're a doctor or whether you're a military person. And so we learned about what all the stuff he complained about was actually about. So appearance is reality. That's a mantra for the Air Force. And if you appear disciplined, orderly, and confident in the eyes of the people that you're supposed to lead, you are orderly, disciplined, and confident. Made some sense. So we learned that day about posture. We learned about speech. We learned about asking direct questions, answering succinctly, preferably ending with the title and the rank of the person that you were speaking to. We learned about the correct performance of applying your uniform. We learned multiple ways to hold up one's socks and keep one's shirt tucked in at the same time, which I had no idea about previously. Now, I was there for love, right? Most of my classmates, I think, were there for the money, which was a very good enticement at that point, full scholarship to medical school and a stipend. But there was one of my classmates who was clearly there because he was a military-ophile. He walked into the first day of class with pristine posture. His uniform was immaculately constructed. I suspected that he already had purchased one of those things that held your socks up and your shirt in at the same time. He answered succinctly and loudly and with great eloquence every time that he spoke. That was Lieutenant Green. And true to the appearance is reality statement that the Air Force was teaching me that day, when at the end of the day, Captain Pierce, our leader, said, "Who is ready to lead us to the dining hall?" We had just learned how to march together. Lieutenant Green raised his hand. No one challenged him because he was clearly the most leaderly among us. And so he got in front of us and we started to march to the dining hall. And we were proud of ourselves. You could feel it. Those among us, we were marching, we were in step. Now we learned how to do it. We turned together, 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 we turned together. We're still marching. And I have no sense of direction, but I do have some emotional intelligence. And I began to sense that those around me were thinking, where are we going? Right? And finally, Captain Pierce from behind says, "Lieutenant Green, halt the flight! Flight, halt!" And the Captain Pierce walks to the front and says, "Lieutenant Green, do you know where the dining hall is?" And Lieutenant Green says, "No, sir!" And so Lieutenant Green, with just a very slight change in his immaculate posture, walks to the back of the flight and gets in the back, and Captain Pierce leads us to the dining hall. So I wondered that night, not having any nightmares, had he planned that, right? You know, like I've done a lot of leadership since then, and those were really the two most important leadership lessons that I ever learned. You have to appear to be a leader, but in the end, you got to know where the dining hall is.